Hello and welcome to Byju's IAS. Let's get started and look into our daily quiz. Let's look into the first question. Which of the following statements are correct? The Union Territories of Puducherry and Delhi are the only two union territories with legislative assembly. These union territories can make laws on any subject in state list only. The president can establish a high court for a union territory or put it under the jurisdiction of high court of adjacent state. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is none. Why? That is because we also have the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, which also has the legislative assembly. When you look into the original administrative setup, yes, it was only Puducherry and Delhi which had the legislative assembly. But then we had the state of Jammu and Kashmir, which was downgraded into a union territory, and this state of Jammu and Kashmir now has what is called as the union territory status with legislative assembly. So the first statement is wrong. When we look into the second statement, these union territories can make laws on any subject in state list only. No, they can also make laws when it comes to the concurrent list also. So it is not only the state list, but they can also make laws when it comes to the concurrent list. Again, the second statement is wrong. When we look into the third statement, it is wrong as well. That is because it is not the president who can establish a high court, but instead it is the parliament. So it is the parliament which can establish a high court for the union territory or put it under the jurisdiction of the high court of adjacent state. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference to Puducherry in this article. So the question as part of assignment is that you have to comment on the comment section which high court has the jurisdiction over Puducherry. Now let's look into the next practice question. Kabasura Kudinir, recently seen in news, is an formulation used by Siddha practitioners for managing respiratory health, Ayurvedic medicine for nerve regeneration, Ayurvedic formulation for management of diabetes, Ayurvedic herb which acts as blood purifier and detoxifier. Kabasura Kudinir is a formulation which is used by the Siddha practitioners for managing respiratory health. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given in the PIB article. So when we look into this Kabasur Kudinir, it is currently being used as an intervention for the mild and moderate symptoms of cough and sore throat, as it helps in healing and has got antiviral capability. So this can be used to fight viral infections, improve the immunity, and the same has been established by the Central Council Research in Siddha under the Ministry of Ayush. Now let's look into the next practice question. Which of the following statements about beyond visual line of sight drones is or correct? Drones flying beyond visual line of sight are controlled by data provided by onboard instruments. Deploying a drone for BVLOS costs more than several other methods such as manned helicopters and airplanes. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is one only. Why? That is because when you look into the statement, when you employ drones in place of other manned helicopters and airplanes, they actually cost far less than the traditional setup. So the second option happens to be a wrong one. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given in this article. So what is this beyond visual line of sight drones? Basically, we have two types of drones. One is the visual drone, where a person who is controlling this particular drone is able to see where the drone is operated, how exactly it is being operated. So he is able to visualize that drone and see what is happening in that particular region. Then we have another type of drone called as the beyond visual line of sight. What do we mean by it? It means that that person who is operating the drone will not be able to see the drone physically. So it is at a distance far off away from this particular person who is operating that drone. So deploying a drone will actually cost less when operated than the manned helicopters as well as the aeroplanes. When it comes to the drones, they are usually employed in those situations which in normal parlance will be dangerous for the human beings. Let's say for example, if there is a particular place where if a man is employed or if a helicopter is employed, it can be disastrous and may lead to loss of lives. In such a scenario where it is about finding out, investigating certain things which can be disastrous for the human beings, what we can employ is the beyond visual line of sight drones. This can also be used for logistics as well, and one such example is in the present situation where vaccines as well as other medicines are being delivered by these beyond visual line of sight drones. What are the permissions that have to be given for operating this drone? Security clearance will have to be given by the Ministry of Home Affairs. Why? Because this can also be used as a security threat as well, which is why security clearance will have to be given to any entity which is operating it, who is the person involved in its operation, what is the airspace that it is using. All this will have to be given permission by the Ministry of Home Affairs. The maximum prescribed height for the operation would be about 400 meters above the ground level. This drone should also have the capability for long range operations. It should have capability to withstand adverse weather conditions as well, and at the same time it should keep transmitting its live information about the location of its operations. All this becomes very important for the beyond visual line of sight drones. Now let's look into the next practice question. With reference to Hajongs, which of the following statements is or correct? Hajongs are predominantly Buddhist and they speak Hajong and Indo-Aryan language. Hajongs are exogamous who marry outside one social group. Which of the statements are correct? The answer to this is none. Why? That is because when you look at Hajongs, they are tribes who live in the Indian subcontinent, especially in the northeastern part of India and also in Bangladesh as well. The Hajongs are predominantly Hindus and not Buddhists. Yes, they do speak Hajong and this happens to be an Indo-Aryan language. But the first part is wrong, which is why the first option would be wrong. When you look into the second statement, Hajongs is given as exogamous people, but it is not. They are endogamous people. They are the ones who marry within a specific social group or an ethnic group or a specific caste, and they usually do not marry outside the one social group. So what is endogamous? Endogamous are those set of people who marry within a particular caste, within an ethnic group. There are certain other groups called as exogamous or exogamy, where it is a social norm where they practice outside their social group. Why have we taken this practice question? Because of the reference given in this article. Now let's look into the previous year question. Consider the following statements. India has ratified the Trade Facilitation Agreement of World Trade Organization. Trade Facilitation Agreement is part of World Trade Organization's Bali Ministerial Package of 2013. TFA came into force in January 2016. Which of the statements given above is or correct? The answer to this is 1 and 2 only. Why? That is because when you look into the third statement, the Trade Facilitation Agreement came into prominence only in the year 2017. So it came into force in 2017 and not in the year 2016. So what is this Trade Facilitation Agreement? Let me explain this in brief. We have number of barriers which prevent proper export and import of a particular good. One such major issue that we all face is red tape and bureaucratization. This basically prevents the imports as well as the export and its efficiency. So what does this Trade Facilitation Agreement do? Basically, since they have understood that bureaucratic delays and red tape has been a major burden, all countries came together and they wanted to ensure that the process of exporting and importing a good is basically simplified, it is modernized, and they are in harmonization to the international rules and agreement. So what do? do? They come up with this trade facilitation agreement whereby effective cooperation was established between all these countries so that the custom rules were in standards of international understanding, and at the same time they also ensured that the movement clearance of the goods was happening on a faster basis. So the removal of red tape and the bureaucratization process is what is called as trade facilitation agreement. This came into prominence so that they can ensure that there is export and imports which is not causing any delay in that particular country. So it sets out all the effective cooperation mechanisms between customs and other appropriate authorities so that trade facilitation and custom compliance issues does not become an hindrance when it comes to the trade relationship. This happens to be a previous year question from the year 2017. Now let's look into the fact of the day, and the topic that we have chosen happens to be European Investment Bank. The European Investment Bank. This is a non-profit European institute. Where is it based? It is based in Luxembourg. What does it do? It provides loans, it provides guarantees and supports all types of projects where it meets the objectives of the European Union. The European Investment Bank was founded by the Treaty of Rome, and when it comes to operations, it is not funded by the European Union budget. Instead, it raises its money from the international capital markets by issuing the bonds. What are the objectives of the European Investment Bank? All the EU countries who are part of the European Union have come together and they have established this European Investment Bank. So they are the major shareholders when it comes to the European Investment Bank. What are their objectives? When you look into the EU policies, it has an important policy of increasing the jobs and growth in the European Union market. So the first objectives is to increase the jobs and growth when it comes to the European Union, and at the same time they also wish to fight the menace of climate change in that particular region so that they can halt the biodiversity loss, stop the widening inequalities that is persisting in that particular region, combat environmental degradation, and at the same time limit global warming to about 1.5 degrees centigrade above pre-industrial levels by end of the century. And in the present situation, the Government of India and European Investment Bank have signed a finance contract for second tranche of European 150 million for the Pune Metro Rail project. So basically, this particular project will be taken under the in charge of the Maharashtra Metro Rail Corporation, which will be its implementing agency, and this particular project will serve a larger population and will help in urban mobility. It will ensure that pollution is under control and also ensures that there is safe and efficient transport mechanism that is established in Pune. It is this that we have to understand in reference to this article. So this is it for today. Thank you for watching. All the best.